This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
Doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down, Michael for three. Yeah! Yes! She is gone!
I can't believe what I just saw!
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans. It's Thursday, April 22nd, and this is the Team of Rivals podcast, proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network. You know, this is absolutely where we expected to be in week 2, right? Cubs just on the verge of sweeping the Mets after dropping the last 3 series they were involved in, sitting at 8-9 on the season after taking the first 2 games against the Mets. They're trailed only by the St. Louis Cardinals, who have the night off. So what everyone expected after 2 weeks, or is it now 3 weeks of baseball, the Brewers on top in the Central Division, 2 games back the Reds, and then hot on their heels, the Pittsburgh Pirates. I got nothing. Hopefully my co-host can help to explain this. But before we bring him on, you can follow us online at teamofrivalspodcast.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast, and on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod. And for those of you who are watching us live, hit the like and subscribe buttons and be sure to ring that bell on YouTube so that you receive notifications anytime we post new content. And joining me as always, number 48 in the 2020 edition of the Top Cards on Twitter, Ron Nuttall, and also not occupying third chair, which shouldn't be much of a surprise for any of you who are regular, semi-regular, infrequent, first-time listeners to the podcast. Permanent occasional guest host Elliott Dewey is, where did he say he was, Ron? He's doing something.
Hey, he's out dinner or something.
He's not here. That's all that matters.
We don't, it's okay. We don't need him.
So this is exactly where we expected to be, right? That at this point in the season, Cubs and Cards in 4th and 5th in the Central Division, and Ron going an entire week without being able to watch a baseball game of his favorite team. So
yeah,
season's off to a great start.
Yeah, you know, everybody's heard me bitch about this plenty of times, right? Just the whole blackout thing. I tell you what, I've never seen as many people complain as frequently as they have this year, though. With all of these, with Bally Sports taking over Fox and you know, a lot of the streaming services like YouTube and Hulu and things dropping those regional sports networks, you literally have to have a satellite dish or a regular like landline cable package in order to get your local teams these days. I think the only one I mean, I'm sure there's a couple obscure services, and there's probably some that are a little shady that I don't like using. I think AT&T now, maybe still, at least here in this area, still carries a couple, but it's just getting harder and harder to watch your team. And what used to be rather simple has become very difficult, and even paying full price for an MLB.TV package. And it was prorated. I got credit towards last year because I paid for the whole year, so this year didn't cost me as much, but still, it's full price. It's $120. Maybe it's a little bit more than that now, but you pay the full price, and you're automatically blacked out 18 games with the Reds, another 6 games with the Nationals. If it's interleague and they happen to be playing the AL East, you're going to get blacked out against the Orioles here. The Braves, at least, up until this year, I haven't tried to watch Bally Sports South or whatever the hell it is. It's probably not on the streaming service either, so there's another 6 games against Atlanta that are unavailable to me, right? So beginning this week on Monday, they played a 3-game set against the Nationals, didn't get to watch a single game live, right? And now they go home. Oh, good, they go home to face the Reds. So that's another 6. That's an entire week that I am blacked out. I cannot watch things live. So I follow as best I can on, the game day, the MLB app and the Gamecast. I can get the audio just fine, but the only action I've been able to see with my eyes has been the condensed games, as you and I were talking about before we went on live tonight. I'm not gonna sit there and watch a 3-hour game when I already know the outcome. I'm not gonna wait to hear what the outcome is. We're baseball fans. We just don't do that shit. I don't know who can, and it's annoying. It's annoying as hell. So within the month of April, 26 games will have been played by the Cardinals. I will have been blacked out 12 of them because they've played the Reds 6 and the Nats 6 times. To me, it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable the way the certain areas claim certain regions that are 7-6 hours away by car. I just don't know how the hell it's possible. And at a time when I think that the popularity of the game is, and I know Major League Baseball came out with a statement, more people watch MLB.TV than ever before. Well, that's because every streaming service is dropping them, right? And people are figuring out workarounds. They're getting the MLB.TV app, and then they're buying VPN or something to work around it, which is what people suggest to me. But I'm not going to do it. Like, well, am I going to pay any more money for this? This is just, I don't know. It's dumb, man. And at a point where the game is kind of suffering a little bit from interest level, even from guys like us, making it harder for us to watch it. Shit, at some point in time, man, there's going to be a threshold they're going to cross, or they're in danger of crossing, where you're just going to lose people. You're going to lose people that were even diehards at one point.
Well, if anything, I do have at least a little bit of good news, because I did read earlier this week that it sounds like Major League Baseball is actually waking up and seeing that direct-to-consumer streaming may be coming. Let's see, where did I see it? So it's Fierce Video, which is the first time I've ever heard of this website.
Yeah.
But it says Major League Baseball is considering a rule change that cord cutters can share after years of relying on traditional distribution of local games via cable and satellite. MLB is now urging its regional sports networks to explore direct-to-customer possibilities for local fans. As in, instead of asking online viewers to authenticate themselves with login credentials for a TV service already carrying a regional sports network's programming, the RSN would sell service direct to those fans. So, I mean, if that's the case, if you can go over the top, because that's kind of what I've been holding out for, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty staunch in my cord cutting. I'm not gonna sign up for a cable package just so that I can watch games. And, I was able to cobble together enough games that I could watch because the Cubs were being carried on so many damn different networks here in Chicago that I could catch several games a year. But now with Marquee coming on, I get nothing.
Yeah.
Not even when they're on ESPN Plus because of the blackout rules.
And that is ridiculous. And I thought I was going to get away with watching 1 or 2 games this week because it said ESPN Plus was carrying it. Like, great. Well, finally, I get to watch one. And of course, it says ESPN Plus /MLB.TV, and it's subject to blackout, and it wouldn't play it. I'm like, God damn it, man. Just, you know how it is. At the end of a day or something, like, you just want, even if you just want it on in the background, to not have the option to do it is just crazy to me. And say I'm Bally Sports Midwest, and, I'm or old Fox Sports Midwest. Like, the fact that they don't even offer, like, these streaming services, even if the streaming service like YouTube TV, like what I've subscribed to, okay, ask me for $5.99 more a month. Yes, I'm only going to pay it during the baseball season. But why don't you just ask me for that? Take my goddamn money, and I'll be just fine. I'm speaking about the people in Midwest. I wouldn't be subject to that because I live on the East Coast. But if I'm sitting there living in Peoria, Illinois, I'm pissed right now. I'm pissed because I've cut my cable 8 years ago. I'm not going back to it. And now you're giving me no options. I live in market, and I'm willing to give you money for it. You're giving me no option to do that. So fine, I'm gonna go the piracy route and sneak a few games in. I mean, that's what people are gonna end up doing if they don't figure this shit out, or just stop.
Ultimately,
watching.
what I think will end up happening is that MLB will loosen the restrictions because that they're hemorrhaging viewers, as evidenced by the fact that more people are watching games on MLB.TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the fact that none of the cable carriers want to pick up these regional sports networks anymore. And so what will ultimately end up happening is they'll craft some kind of an agreement where instead of paying, let's say, $5 a month so that you get your local RSN, you can pay $15 and you're able to stream it with no blackout restrictions as though you had it. And you don't have to have a subscription to your local cable company. So for me, I'd pay $15 a month to Marquee to be able to watch Cubs games. And I'm sure that you would do the exact same thing. And then you'd be able to watch it and you'd be able to watch them play the Reds and the Braves and the Nationals.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I might not pay him that every month. I might be one of those guys that starts and stops and starts and stops, but it's either that, guys, or you get none of it. You either get part of it or you get absolutely none of it. And I'm figuring a workaround that you're not going to like.
Right.
And we're not alone. Go browse Twitter, go browse Reddit, anywhere, and there are people giving you dozens of options on how you can do shit. And I have not done any of it because I would rather pay for it and not have to lose a wink of sleep worrying about if I'm going to be doing something I'm not supposed to, right? So, they're leaving money on the table, and they're going to lose interest in people that were kind of on the fence whether they were that interested in baseball this year. Look, we just walked up. We're at the tail end of what we hope is the tail end of a pandemic where people were without sports for a long time and figured out ways to live and figured out that they actually wouldn't die without it. So now's not the time for this shit, and they do have to figure it out.
And, it's not just lost revenue from the direct viewers paying, RSN fees or app fees for subscriptions to apps and stuff. You also have to figure that they're losing advertising dollars. And where we may not be purchasing the products that are advertised, there is a value in our eyes being on those products and on those advertisements. And their advertisers are not getting the bang for their buck that they're normally used to because people aren't able to watch games. And so they're going to start to hear about that as well. And the last thing that they need to be worrying about is the revenue side when they're entering into negotiations on a new CBA, which is actually probably not a terrible transition because apparently this week the two sides actually sat down to discuss next year's collective bargaining agreement, which, I mean, we've discussed it before. We're hopeful, but I'm not together early optimistic.
When they start, you remember it was about 2 years ago. It was 2019. It was the spring. It was before the season started, where they came together on just some rules and modifications to the game. Right? They came to the table earlier than 2 years prior to when the CBA was going to end, 2.5 years, and started working on some problems together. And at that point in time, I remember feeling this way in 2019. I actually talked to Brian Stoll out of St. Louis. He used to be was a writer. I can't remember what the publication he was with, but he ended up he didn't write for the Cardinals necessarily anymore, about the Cardinals anymore. He's actually switched over to the PR director for the Battlehawks for the XFL that was starting up. So he was kind of exiting that sport, going into another one. But he felt the same way. He's like, the sign that they're coming to the table early to get some issues out of the way prior to this is a good sign for the CBA coming up. And I don't know. This last year hasn't generated any good feelings about what might be happening with the CBA. But anytime they come to the table ahead of time or start conversations early, I think the better. But this time, Pete, it's fine that we're hearing about it or hearing a whisper here and there. But I hope this time through, it's not going to happen. I wish they'd leave all the shit behind closed doors and figure it out that way. I'm not looking forward to reading. And as much as I've appreciated some of the stuff that Trevor Bauer puts out, I don't want to really hear anything from him or any other player or owner or media member about what the hell's going on with the negotiations. Just surprise me. If you're going to strike, just strike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that that's what's going to happen. And I do think that it's going to come from the player's side.
You're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. And it doesn't matter. Either side at this point, it's a lose-lose. Right?
Yeah.
I understand that the players don't want to live under the agreement that they're under right now because they've just really screwed themselves on the service time issue, draft pick compensation. They didn't cut the best deal last time through.
No.
You understand why they want that improved. But I agree with you because of that, though, because they're the ones that need the most out of this next negotiation. Just based on where they're positioned right now, right? They need a lot, and I just don't see ownership fold or bending that far. And so Yeah, I totally agree. But you couldn't pick a worse time to have something like that, a stoppage happen.
Yeah, I wonder who has more on the line. When you stop and you think about it, who's got more to lose in a labor agreement? Normally, I would agree with you that it's the players who have more to lose, but in the wake of the pandemic, you got to think that the owners are already operating on a pretty thin margin for this year. Can they really afford for the money not to come back next year?
I think there's probably a handful of owners that are desperate for it to not happen, Pete. But these guys are millionaires, billionaires, and if they lose revenue on their team, look, it's a business, and that sucks for them. It sucks for their business and their employees. Let me put it that way. These guys are still going to be rich, so. Who stands to lose the most? These are guys' careers. They've got all of them have a short window. Some of them very short, in order to cash in. And I firmly believe that the players have the most to lose here. Millionaires are going to be millionaires. They can have a business fold, and most of these guys can write it off. They've got other shit to fall back on. The Cubs will be in bad shape because of all the investments they've made, no doubt, right? But look, Ricketts Senior, I think he's going to be fine. So, I think I don't know. I don't know enough about these owners and other businesses they've had. I know for very few of them, it's a hobby where they can afford to gamble and lose and just buy their way out of shit. But I think it's the players that stand to lose the most. I'm not talking the guys that make $300 million. I'm talking about the guys that just came up or are 28 years old and just getting their first or second opportunity. Those are the guys that are going to be screwed in this.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what I wonder is like, who's really going to get the squeeze? Because a lot of what you read is that one of the goals is going to be to get the younger guys their money earlier, right? So that they're not playing on their rookie level contracts and not able to cash in right away.
I've got a question here. Greg's just going away at our chat here. I got a question. What does Baez just got Baez'd mean? It means somebody had it turned a really excellent defensive play on him, or did he strike out again? What does that mean?
My guess, he must have struck out again.
Okay.
Because that's all he's been doing this year. The latest I read, no joke, he's striking out every other at bat.
It was like he had 60 plate appearances and 31 strikeouts.
Yeah. Which,
is Jeff Albert his hitting coach as well? Are they just outsourcing the hitting coach down to St. Louis for Jeff? I'm just asking. I mean, by the way, so as we recorded, normally I start hitting it well before we go on, but I didn't tonight. A nice little bottle of Biltmore. Have you've been to Asheville, right? You've been to the Biltmore estate?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well, never mind then. Nice little bottle of Cab.
Yeah.
Pour myself another glass here. Not bad.
Is it already time to switch over to
it's
the
not
Cantina?
yet. No, we're not quite there yet. I'll let you know. You'll see it. So let's go with the Cardinals news first, because I think as much noise as I do hear coming from Chicago, and you and Elliott kind of broke down what you wanted to happen with the roster last week. So I guess that we weren't in as bad a position last week, so I didn't have over the top feelings about what the Cardinals should or shouldn't do. Some of this is probably going to be a little bit of repeat. So the Cardinals have captured sole possession of last place in the National League Central.
Yes.
It is odd seeing them down there, and it harkens back to like 1995, right before the DeWitt. And
I would love to know when the last time was that the Cubs and Cardinals occupied the two bottom positions in the division.
I bet it was in the early 90s. It very well could have been in the early 90s. We'll have to research that, but you're probably not going to get a mid-season standing. It'd probably be kind of hard. You probably get like the full year, but I think the Cardinals did finish last in 94 or 95 or something like that. But that's the last time I remember them doing that. So they have lost like 5 out of 6 series, right? And if you take that Marlins series out of it, or 4 out of 5 or something like that, but if you take that Marlins sweep out of the equation, they're like 5-10. And yes, some of those games they should have won, but that still only puts them at like 7-8, or at best like 9 or 6-9. So it doesn't really, it doesn't feel that great. That Marlins sweep law was like, that's what you're supposed to do. against teams like that. They're not getting the job done. And I don't, it's funny for us. We don't like, what do you put your finger on when you kind of look at every facet of their game and you can point out major flaws, right? So I'm just going to start with Mike Shildt here. There's some talk with, amongst Cardinal fans about, is he going to be on the hot seat or not? And I can tell you right now, the Cardinals do not pull a trigger on managers quickly. It took a lot for them to finally pull the trigger on Matheny, and especially midseason. Like it got to the point where it got past the bottom, like it bottomed out and it got even worse after that. And then they finally had no choice. I don't know what happened there. I'm not in that locker room. I'm not behind the scenes, but it had to be players communicating with front office at this point, like key players, big name players that just like, something's not working here, because I don't know that the front office would do it on their own. Shildt is not on the hot seat. He was manager of the year in 2019. He did a hell of a job without a strong offense. It was all about improving areas of their game, but they were really they were playing very un-Cardinal-like with defense and base running, all that shitty play we saw 2016 through 18. It really turned itself around in 2019. Now, hey, look, it helps when you have Paul Goldschmidt at first base that can actually catch a ball and pick one every once in a while, right? let's be fair about it, and it actually helps when you have Harrison Bader patrolling center field more often, because defensively we know he's really damn good. So yes, better defenders will translate to a better defense, but I think overall their defense was, the run prevention, their pitching and defense is what kept them afloat, what put them over the top in 2019. Shildt deserves a lot of credit for 2019. He was manager of the year. I give him even more credit for what he was able to do in 2020 under the conditions that they had to play in. All of those double headers, they missed nearly 10 to 14 days because of COVID. They were a mess, and they managed to at least make it to the postseason. A lot of teams didn't have that interruption. So I give Shildt a lot of credit for what he's done. However, this year, Pete, we don't know whether this is coming from front office or where the hell this is coming from, but we continue to see Matt Carpenter's name in that lineup. He's batting like .081. And all we hear thrown out, and some pockets of fans is coming from, that his hard hit contact is up. His XWOBA is as high as it was back in 2014, 2015, 2018. And if he keeps doing this, he's going to have good results. Folks, I've been looking at the results, and this is not, we've been seeing this version of Matt Carpenter since really like September of 2018, after he went on that ungodly run midseason. Pete, we were there. We saw him when he was playing out of his mind, right? He was never that good. And, well, he's not, man. You're never as good as your best day. You're never as bad as your worst day, right? You're somewhere in between. And he's been that way the entire time. Yet we still see him, for the longest time, we saw him batting fifth, like behind the cleanup hitter. Like, what the hell are you talking about? My dad went on a tirade. I love it. I wish I would record some of these things, but he's like, you should be hitting behind a goddamn pitcher. Like that's how bad he is. And he's right. Like the pitcher batting average is a lot better than his, but I said batting averages. I'm sorry guys, but it does matter, folks. Batting average is still a thing. I don't care what you say. We still see him in the lineup. We still see Paul Goldschmidt batting second. We still see Arenado batting third. Don't care what you guys are going to throw at me that says your most productive hitters are 2-3. I don't want to hear it. What I want to see them do, and I think I'd be right about this. I'm going to go out on a limb, and Pete, I think that if you gave me the pencils, like, get the hell out of here. I'm going to make this lineup tonight, jackass. I'm going to make it for the next week. We're going to see what happens. I'm going to say I'm moving Goldschmidt back to third and Arenado to fourth, or hell, flip them. I don't care. But that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to see who can handle the second position in the lineup. I'm going to put Dylan Carlson there. I'm going to put Dylan Carlson there with a real hitter behind him to see what he can do. I'm going to do it now because you're already in last place. Your offense is flailing. You have one out of every 3 or 4 games, Pete, where they'll put up like 9 to 12 runs. They'll just explode, and then they go silent the next day, and sometimes even worse the day after that. So while their average runs per games are somewhere around the middle of the road, if you look at all the teams, like they've stacked them on these blowout games, and then they're scoring nothing the other two, and that's how they're losing these series. And this lineup sucks, right? This lineup is terrible. The way it's being written is not, I don't think it's optimal. And some dickhead out there is going to say, well, we're trying to optimize guys at bats by batting them second. They'll bat maybe one more time a game. Okay, So basically what you're saying is we don't trust our leadoff and second place hitter, so we've got to bat our best guys way up high in the order so they can get more at-bats with nobody on base. That's a great fucking idea. I mean, it really is a great idea. How about we get a capable, half-assed capable 1 or 2 hitter so these guys can actually get up with people on? Let's try that. Where's your stat for that shit? Would you ever have batted Albert Pujols second in the lineup? Fuck no, you wouldn't have. He batted third the entire time. Tony La Russa was not an idiot. Yes, Larry Walker batted second once in a while. Yes, Jim Edmonds batted second once in a while. That's okay. But you never would have batted Albert there. And right now, their best hitter is Arenado, Goldschmidt. Take your pick. You're not going to bat those guys. So why the fuck why do we do this? Why is this happening? Try somebody else at second. This is stupid. I'm just tired of seeing it. Tired of seeing his fucking lineups. I really am. Take his pencil away. Somebody else do it. Shit, give it to the ball boy.
Oh, that was great.
It's what you wanted. It's what you.
I need a cigarette.
It's what you asked for. It is just frustrating, and I know every smart ass out there that can get on Baseball Savant will tell me different. But let me tell you. So Shildt goes out. I think it was before the Nats series started. Said, I just want to throw out 2 numbers to you guys. I know the results aren't there, but we're number 1 in hard hit percentage, and we're number 4 in exit velocity. You know what that nets you, Pete? Do you know what that nets you? That nets you a middle of the road offense in just about every category you look at, and it nets you a sub 500 record. You know where they're at today?
Right,
hard hit
it
percentage.
Doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean shit. So you're telling me my hard hit percentage, if I swing and miss 99 out of 100 times, if that one time I hit it really well when I hit it, oh great. So my percentage is sky high. Look at this. It's so beautiful. No, man. I mean, that's great. When you hit the ball, you hit it really hard. How many fucking times do you hit it? I can tell you right now, not enough. Not enough. And there are guys who say, well, you want guys to hit hard and elevate the ball. That's how you win. That's how the game's changed, boomers. This is how it's played now. Is it? Is that why everybody's so interested in the game now? No, you know what most people, young fans are interested in? They're interested in fantasy baseball. They're interested in MLB The Show. I don't know how many are watching these games versus actually playing it on a computer. Okay? So I want to know, I would rather take it 10, I think I said this last week. So basically these same assholes would be saying Tony Gwynn wouldn't make it in the league. Ichiro, you said, wouldn't make it in the league, according to these guys. Okay, fine. So you want a 1 through 9 lineup with everybody that just swings as hard as they can, and the few times they do make contact, they'll hit it at the optimal launch angle and exit velocity to make you fuckers happy. Well, that's cool.
Even the Bronx Bombers had a speedy leadoff man. When you were batting Ruth and Gehrig back to back, you still had a speedy guy up at the top whose job was
some
to
of
get
these
on
assholes
base.
today would have Ruth leading off because man, wouldn't it be nice to just get up by 1 run quickly and then he can bat 4 more times, and 12% of the time he can hit a home run with nobody on base.
Yep. I bet his hard hit percentage and exit velocity were off the charts. But he was a hitter.
I would like a
That's
rating
the thing.
I would like a rating on my hard hit percentage every time I would actually see some of these guys looking at their computer and talking about this shit. I wonder what my hard hit rate would be. I bet it'd be 95%.
Yep. And your batting average would be sky high too.
You know what?
They can't dodge because they have no athletic.
I might have a couple bottles of this Cabernet, but I bet I could hit 3 out of 10 of those assholes. You know what? 300 batting average, Pete. That's Hall of Fame territory right there. Ooh, batting average. Nice. I just pissed all you guys off. I said batting average. Okay.
Hey, Ron, I do have to give you some credit. You mentioned Baseball Savant, and you clearly are one because in 1994, now, granted, strike shortened season, but still, 1994, 4th place, St. Louis Cardinals with a record of 50. I'm sorry, not 4th place. Tied for 3rd with the Pittsburgh Pirates. 53 and 61, 13 games back of the Reds. And in 5th, just to make the Cardinals fans feel better, 16 and a half games back with a 49 and 64 record. Of course, my Cubs. But that was not the last time that the Cubs and Cards finished 4th and 5th in the division. Actually, that was the first time because it was the first time there was a central division. But the last time was in 1997. Houston Astros won the division by 5 games over the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah. They still hung on for a few years,
11
right?
games
After Bonds
back.
left.
11 games back with only 73 wins, the Cardinals, and 16 games back with 68 wins, the Cubs. So 1997. So it's been, 24 years since our two teams finished the season in 4th and 5th place.
That's impressive. It's impressive. I wasn't done with the Cardinals yet, because I want to talk about Shildt and his bullpen management. That's what's been surprising.
Of course, go.
That's been what's been surprising about him this year is, this wasn't the last game against the Nationals. The Cardinals lost it 1-0, and Martinez went in this game, and Scherzer. Right, you're going to lose more games against Scherzer than you're going to win, and I think he's proven that throughout his career, almost against everybody. Right, but so he blanked you, the bullpen blanked you. That shit's going to happen. Right, but again, it's more frustrating because the offense was dead the day before too. They could only summon 2 runs, and ended up blowing the game anyway. So Martinez, to his credit, pitched a quality game. And he gave them every opportunity to stay in it. Adam Wainwright wasted a really good start from him too, right? Right now, those are your most. I hate to say this, but that's like your Flaherty went game 1, and he didn't have a stellar game, but he had a quality game. I'm going to give all of them a quality start. I'm going to say that all of them have quality starts. You got one of them, you wasted 2. His bullpen management in game 2 was about the shittiest I've ever heard of, and I was listening to it. His inability to think about getting a guy up to warm up, if a guy doesn't have it that night, is flabbergasting, Pete. It just is. I mean, I know Gallegos has been one of their most reliable and best relievers in the bullpen over the last couple of years. He's been great. He makes that Luke Voit trade easy to swallow. And so, but still, those guys, you can only go to the well so many times. They're going to have a bad night. They're going to be off every so often, and you got to be able to recognize that quicker as a manager. I don't know if he's I've got confidence in him, and I want him to know I've got confidence in him, so I don't want him to look over and see somebody warming up. That's going to send a signal to him that I don't trust him. So I don't know what the hell's going on in Shilt's head. But really, you should have had somebody up and ready to go. And I know there's a 3-batter minimum, but the bases were loaded. He did manage to get one guy to strike out, but at that point, dude, when he walked in the tying run, he's done at that point. Most managers, maybe except Dusty, he's out. They're oh, sorry, let me backtrack. Except Dusty and Mike Matheny, he's out. They pull him, and it didn't happen. And the amazing thing about this, Pete, almost the same thing happened the week before against the same team. So what's going on? Is he slower this year? Did something happen to him? Did he get the COVID? Does he have brain fog? What's going on, Mr. Shildt? Because this is it's perplexing, man. It's got a lot of us. He's not in the hot seat. I'll go back to what I said before. He's not. The Cardinals just don't do that. And but it is frustrating to see what's happening right now, because not only is their offense not performing, the way the games are being managed, they're being mismanaged. Just to be honest with you, they're being mismanaged, and it's frustrating as hell. They're not playing great. I don't know what the fix is. They're not losing because of Matt Carpenter. Okay, not him alone. But he is a dead spot in the whole roster. And I hate to say that, because over the life of his career, he's done everything they've asked him to, and you don't hear him bitch in the media. Okay, he doesn't make excuses. But damn, man, we're paying the guy I'm not paying him anything, but the organization's paying him $20 million this year. We all know that's why they're keeping him there. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think overnight he's going to figure it out. I don't care what the hard hit people say. I don't care what the exit velocity people say. He's a dead spot in the order. And when Tyler O'Neill or Bader, either of the two, are off the IL, he's got to be taken out of that everyday lineup. You cannot have him in there anymore. And you definitely can't have him batting 5th. My God. What are you thinking?
Why do you think he's getting so many at-bats? Is there really no better alternative?
Well, here's the thing, right? So Bader's on the IL, so is O'Neill, right? So you've lost 2 of your outfielders. You thought we're going to get a bulk of the starting time with Carlson over and right. So you've got right. Carlson playing center. He's doing just fine. You got Justin Williams, who's had some pretty good games. And you've got Hurst, a new kid they picked up, right? So You've got people that can cover it. Plus, you have Austin Dean. But what's happening right now is Tommy Edman, who's not an outfielder growing up through the system. He's an infielder. You got him starting in right field. And actually, to his credit, he's done pretty well. Okay, but he's an athlete and he's a good ball player. So you can probably plug him just about anywhere. But you're pushing an infielder to the outfield. And then you're putting Matt Carpenter in the game. You've got Edmundo Sosa. I'm not saying he's going to be uber better than Matt Carpenter, but he's an infielder. And I just don't know why we're not seeing maybe him get a shot at second every so often, or flip the infielders around. I just, like, they're still pumping him out there, and he's terrible. He's done terrible. He's played terrible. He's had like 5 hits since February. That's not a funk, man. Is that just a lull? I don't know. I don't think it is. I think he's done. People just don't want to say it. And they owe him $20 million this year, Pete. That's probably your answer. They're playing to the contract. Playing to the history.
That's such a shame.
I feel bad for him.
Tell you,
I can guarantee you he feels terrible about all this. I guarantee you he does, but like at some point in time, it's about results, right? Like, you're not going to run a business when one of your key salespeople just continues to fail to close the deal. You're not going to stay with it that often. So,
and I've never understood that with sports is you have a guy on a big contract and he's not performing.
Yeah.
You got to pay the contract anyway. Right.
Right.
So why are you hurting your chances to win by putting him, but that doesn't justify putting him in the lineup if he's hurting you.
Yeah. It's the desperation to squeeze any type of value out of it. I don't know. Or it's just reluctance to admit that extension wasn't needed and you did it for not a very good reason. And you're paying for it now and you don't want to admit it. So you're trying to say, you're crossing your fingers going, keep putting him out there. Hopefully he has one of those streaks like he did in 2018. And that's all you're hoping for. At some point in time, though, and I don't know when the date would happen, if this continues with him like this, I just don't know how is anybody that's not fiscally responsible is not the right term. Anybody who's responsible enough to, if you tell publicly your fan base and your owner that you're going to put out a competitive team, you're still, if it's still going this way with him in August and he's still on your roster, it's job negligence. I don't know how else to put it. It's negligence.
No, you're absolutely right. And again, I just go back to, I have never understood why that is. I've never understood why a team does that. It's harsh, but it's a business and everybody knows that.
Right. Like
when a guy's not performing and you got him on a big contract like that, it's sunk cost.
Yeah.
You're not getting it back.
Right. And you're not going to be able to trade it away.
You wouldn't do this. You wouldn't do this in a normal operation, right? If you had a flaw in your factory, but it was going to cost you $20 million to fix it, well, you would spend the $20 million rather than continue to send out flawed product, right? You would be like, look, we got to do this because we can't continue the way that we are. But no, it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to climb into the minds of people that are making the call on this, and just to hear what their rationale is. I mean, I think that so you got to put Tommy Edman in right because you got 2 outfielders that are down. These guys are young, and you don't think they're going to produce. So you push a capable bat into the outfield because you feel you need to, but then you put in a veteran, and are you hoping for history to return? Are you hoping for some kind of magic? I don't know. Is it loyalty to the player? Is it a personal feeling? I mean, we can understand things like that, but when it has gone on this bad for this long, it's like at some point in time, you just can't do it anymore. And it almost becomes like self-preservation. You got to keep him out of the lineup for that reason. And it's not even reached that point yet. And again, I want to say this. I'm not personally attacking Matt Carpenter. This is not a personal thing. It's like player X producing this to this level. I don't care who it is, man.
Yep.
Oh, and it's not just about this year. It goes back a couple years now. If Mike Trout played this way from February to now, he might be the one player you go, maybe he just needs LASIK or something and everything's fine.
Yep.
But it's been like 2.5 years. We've seen this. And it is getting worse, and it is at its worst point right now that you can't. There's not a rookie that would have ever broke camp with a team and performed like this and still been with the team. There's no way in hell.
So I just found the video. You're going to like this one.
Okay.
Baez got some squib single to the outfield and almost got thrown out because he dogged it down the line and then he didn't hustle back and they threw behind him to first base and he got tagged out at first.
So
at least that's what it looks like from the video.
That's what it mean by Baez got Baezed.
Yep, he got Baezed.
All right.
Yep.
Cubs.
Wow.
I've went on long enough.
2021, man.
Welcome back, baseball.
2021.
Mm-hmm. We thought 2020 was bad.
Oh my God.
From baseball perspective.
There's a part of me, we discussed this already. There's a part of me that wants the Cubs to bottom out quickly just so that we can.
Just their force.
Because we know what's going to happen next year. We know. We talked about this last week. We know what's going to happen next year. Most of this team is not coming back. So let's rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, I agree. I felt that way before too. Just like, tell us. It's like, I just went to the doctor. I got some blood tests. Like, don't. Why does this take 4 days? Just tell me now. Like, don't you have a little strip you can put on it and tell me if I'm screwed up and I've only got 6 weeks to live? Well, don't wait 4 days. Just tell me now. It's what we feel like. It's what we feel like in sports terms, right? Like, we just want to know where you're going to go. Yeah. What are you going to try to do? Tell us your plan.
Yep.
I think it.
And I read.
Yeah, go ahead.
I read something the other day that said that the Cubs going at this point right now, and obviously who knows who they'll manage to extend and what the arbitration races and everything are. But right now going into next season, I think they've got something like it's either $25 or $45 million on the books.
Oh, Greg's saying the call was reversed. He was actually safe. They must have challenged it.
Was it? Well, still, it's a bad look. But regardless, starting next year with 25 or 45 million on the books, that's a lot of room.
Right. I think premium positions. Chicago. I think premium positions. It's going to be thick. Well, I guess Lindor's off the market, right?
Yeah,
but
there are still a lot of good shortstops who are going to be available.
I know. He was the name though. Like he would have been. He and probably Baez. It depends on how his year goes this year. Would have been.
No. Baez isn't going to be anywhere near Lindor's. Apparently, there was a story that came out.
What 170?
There was a story that came out in the past week. I think it was last year. During spring training, he turned down a $180 million extension.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere.
And nobody knows if speculation is it was somewhere between 6 and 9 years, and he turned it down.
You can understand why he would, but
he's not getting $20 million AAV based on how he performed last year and how he's performing so far this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, the thing is, so you've got some money coming off the books and you can spend it, but I think some of these front offices have to look at, okay, even if we spent that, what state will that put our team in? And if you know it's not going to get you there, then it's the smart thing is, and I know fans don't want to hear it, is you don't do that then, right? You don't do it if you know your team's not in a window, right? If you know you're going to be in a window for 3 or 4 years, sign that guy. Mm-hmm. Trade for him, do whatever you have. But if you don't think you are, and you've got a 4 or 5 year plan to kind of turn the ship around, yeah, then you probably don't make those big splashes because those are just going to set you back. I mean, ask the Cubs over the years, the signings like Alfonso Soriano, right? Perfect example. Like you tried to buy that one, and there were a couple years the Cubs did really well, but you can't tell me they wish they didn't have that one back, right? When it kind of bottomed out. Starting in 2009. So I think organizations are smarter in that regard now. So yes, the classes will be big. We might only find maybe a third of the league, maybe less, are actually players in that market because teams are in the middle of whatever whatever the hell they're in the middle of.
Yep.
And I never know where the Cardinals are at. So you think it drives you mad? I never know where the Cardinals are at, because they always say they're going to be competitive. So you never know.
Right. And the other thing you have to take into consideration is it may be a stacked free agent class, but is it stacked where you need it or where you perceive you're going to need it, right? I mean, if you believe, for example, if you're the Cubs, it's that time, is it? If you're the Cubs and you believe that you have your future shortstop coming up in the next couple of years, whether it's Christian Hernandez or one of the other guys that they've got, but you figure that in 3 years you're going to have an all-star shortstop, then you're not going to sign a shortstop. Similarly, if you believe in Miguel Amaya, or if you believe that you can extend Wilson Contreras and keep him around, then you're not going to be on the market for a catcher. But if the market you may have a great free agent class, but if it's stacked with catchers and shortstops, you're not going to participate. You're going to look to sign guys where you have a potential hole. So if anything, if I thought the Cubs were going to look anywhere this year to sign somebody, I would think that they would look for a potential high ceiling first baseman. Because if they're not going to re-sign Anthony Rizzo, there's nobody in their farm system who lights things up at first base right now.
Well, even if they drafted a guy they thought that wasn't going to arrive in 3 or 4 more years, and you wanted to extend Rizzo for 3 or 4 more years, like that, moves like that makes sense. And the other thing, I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate to what you said, because the Cardinals had a high level prospect at third base in Nolan Gorman. Now, 2 things could have happened. Maybe they didn't see enough from him last year, and he's probably not going to be a big league third baseman long term. And so now we'll bring that guy in. Or it's, shit, this is Nolan Gorman. We got a chance to get him. We know we've got a guy we really like, but you bring in the best. If a guy's available and you think you can get him, you get him. And either you find somewhere else for Gorman to develop it at, or there's a trade chip, right? So
very valuable trade chip.
Yeah, yep. Exactly. So there's 2 ways of looking at it. And so I don't know. I guess I'm kind of on the side of the fence that says you can never have too much talent at one position, as long as you know what to do with it and you're willing to pull the trigger. Right. And what we find though is too often, and we've seen it with the Cardinals a few times too. I'm not praising them for their evaluation of their minor leaguers at this point, but sometimes you hold on to things too long, or you deal the wrong ones, and it comes back to bite you. So we've seen it happen both ways. But I would say that, like, if you've got a surefire things, like a known quantity out there that's available, and you know it can help you, you get it. I don't care who your prospect is. You either deal the marquee guy you just signed or you traded for, or you trade the younger guy that you thought was going to be your future. So it's 2 ways of playing it, I guess. Yep.
And you're absolutely right. Some of the backup on the Arenado deal could very well be, all right, look, if last year wasn't a fluke, and there is an issue and he's not able to, we still have Gorman.
Right.
And Nolan Arenado is still going to have value to other teams.
Yeah, and he had that opt-out thing too, right? So now if he played shitty enough, he's not going to take the opt-out, and you're going to be stuck.
Precisely.
Right? So it's a risk. It still is a risk. So, yeah. Like, as armchair GMs, that's probably both of us looking at this would have made the same deal. Like, we would have both done it.
Oh, hell yes.
But it still is agonizing, because the longer you sit there and you lay in your bed at night and think about, God, I don't know, what if Nolan Gorman turns out to be that Rosarina deal, and we didn't give him the chance at third, and he ends up being the Brooks Robinson for L's Orioles someday, because we didn't believe in him, but somebody else did. So,
yep.
I have to think that a lot of misfires on Mozeliak's part are I can't say that, because he made the deal, and I thought after all these other misfires that he might not make any more this winter. So I was surprised, but.
And you never know. You never know what a prospect is going to unlock, because there are no guaranteed prospects, right? And Exhibit A, I think, for the Cubs is actually Jorge Soler. It's not. God, I'm blanking on his name now, but the prospect that they traded to the Yankees in order to get Aroldis Chapman.
Gleyber Torres.
What's that?
Was it Torres?
Yeah, Gleyber Torres. Thank you. that's not, I think, an apt comparison, because you traded him to get the closer who would get you the World Series, and that worked out. So you don't, I will never question that move, because it worked out exactly the way you wanted it to. Yeah. Similarly, I think it's hard to second guess them on Jorge Soler, because they had given him a number of chances, and
wasn't that a Wade Davis thing? That was Wade Davis, right?
They traded him for Wade Davis. Wade Davis worked out in that, it locked down the back end of their bullpen again for another couple of years. But also Jorge Soler was not going to be the guy that he's become in Kansas City, because he's allergic to the cold. I mean, anything else. And they just, for whatever reason, their hitting coaches were unable to unlock the latent talent that was in him that he has been able to unlock in Kansas City. And good for Jorge Soler.
He's got a great manager out in Chicago. Well, it's his manager down there.
That clearly that's what it is.
It's Magic Mike. I mean, he unlocked the talent in a rookie. No, that's never happened. But yeah.
Speaking of unlocking talent in hitters, I don't know if you caught it, but apparently they asked Chili Davis this week, since he's in town, about his time with the Cubs. And it's pretty clear from the comments that he made that exactly what Elliott and I were talking about last week is absolutely the case. Cubs have a bunch of young hitters who experienced a lot of success early on, and they wouldn't listen to him. He doesn't say it in so many words, but you read between the lines, and that's exactly what it is. Yeah. He talks about not being able to connect with them and not being able to get through with them. And it's pretty clear that that's exactly what happened. You had a bunch of guys who thought that who still think that they know best, and they're not going to listen to whatever any hitting coach who washed out in baseball in their minds has to say.
Well, and that's another thing too. Was Chili Davis ever on a World Series team? And did he ever win a ring? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I think he did.
But it's one of those things like, let me go back to Mike Shildt for a second. I don't, nobody perceives. I think Mike Shildt buys the 2-year product protection plan at Best Buy whenever he buys something from there, because he's playing it safe. Maybe it's just the glasses that make me think of him that way. I don't know. Maybe it's just the mild manner in which he speaks, but he doesn't strike any of us as I'm going to lay down the law on you guys. I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm going to put my foot down. He doesn't strike any of us as that kind of guy. Like a player's manager is what the perception is on the outside. And so I'm wondering, Pete, if some of that, I mean, look, the guy seems pretty humble, but I'm wondering how much of that comes from the fact that he wasn't a professional player. And actually, a little fact on this that I remember from an interview that I can't remember what the podcast was that interviewed him. He had the same eye condition that Tommy Pham has, teratoconus or something like that, or I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but where it affects your eyesight over time. And Tommy Pham was able to get a surgery that stopped it or slowed it down. And that was well before the time Mike Shildt was able to have anything like that done. So he suffered from the same thing, and that was like a depth perception issue is part of what I believe, if I remember it correctly, is part of what causes that condition causes, right? And as a baseball player, that's pretty detrimental, right? When your eyesight's compromised, I mean, you're screwed. So I'm wondering how much of the fact that he wasn't a professional baseball player, or didn't make it all the way to the major leagues, impacts him as a manager trying to manage guys to have. And how many of those young guys kind of, while showing respect, once you reach a certain level or established as a major leaguer, that do you stop listening to a guy who's never been there? We'd all like to think that doesn't happen, that rank and file kind of falls in line, and it's a manager and you respect the manager and et cetera, et cetera. There have been a few guys that have been able to pull it off. Like La Russa didn't have much of a major league career. In fact, I'm not 100% sure he made it. I think he did, but it was a very short stint, and he certainly didn't make a mark as a player. But he came up as a manager and a well-established manager. Lou Piniella was a player, and everybody knew about Lou Piniella. He was still pissed off as a player, and he was even more pissed off as a manager. We knew this. So there's been guys that have certainly done it, but I'm just wondering how much of his mild manner comes from the fact that he knows he wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And while the players may not be thinking that way, maybe in his mind he is. So, it's strange. We talk about hitting coaches. there are hitting coaches in the league that have never been players, major league players, but they're smart guys and they know what they see. But how much of the players or their perception, or maybe they're trying to get in the players' heads, like, is this guy really listening to me? Because I've never actually done this against major league pitching, but I'm telling him how to do it.
Right.
So it's a weird dynamic when you think about it. You know, we're these young Cubs players looking at Chili Davis and go, dude, you've never won a World Series. You don't have a ring. And you're telling me how to do it.
He has to.
He has to. Okay, so my guess at a theory just bottomed out. I mean, it bottomed out. But you get my point.
He won in 91 with the Twins and again in 99.
He was on the 91 team against the Twins. Okay.
Yeah.
He made the last out, and I don't know how I remember this. Random synapses fired in the back of my brain. He made the last out in the National League Championship Series. He was a member of the Giants, made the last out, popped out against Danny Cox to left fielder Vince Coleman, and the Cardinals went to the World Series against the Twins in '87. That's where that fired. Chili Davis. Last out of the 1987 NLCS. Candy Maldonado declared that the Giants would win that game before the game.
That might be, honestly, that might be one of my favorite baseball names of all time, Candy Maldonado. Candido.
Like, what else is that guy going to do? He was going to be a baseball player. Like, you can't have the name Candy Maldonado and not have been a baseball player. Not a memorable one, but the name is memorable.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing we miss.
Jesus.
We need the days of good baseball nicknames. Those don't exist anymore. There are no good baseball nicknames.
And as much as I did, I was annoyed, and you likely were too, about Chris Berman. He thought he was the master of nicknames. He was actually shit at it, but we need somebody to step up and start bringing this stuff back. I mean, the Cobra, Dave Parker. One of my favorite nicknames. Not necessarily player, although he was a Cardinals hitting coach under Tony La Russa.
And come on, going way back in Cubs history, 3-finger Orville overall.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, Mordecai 3-finger Brown. That's right. And then you had Orville overall. That was just his name. That wasn't even a nickname. His name was just Orville overall.
The Express.
Yeah, we need good nicknames back, because everybody is A-Rod, K-Rod, B-Rod. Seriously, give us something better.
Yeah. We definitely have to do better. I mean, if we think bat flips make players memorable or anything else, like, I think nicknames ride farther than antics on the field. And I say antics, not in a bad way, because I'm not opposed to this stuff anymore. I'm not a boomer, except against exit velocity. You fuckers that like to throw that out all the time.
You know that 30 years ago, Chris Bryant's nickname would not be KB. 30 years ago, his nickname would be something along the lines of Old Blue Eyes or something like that.
Yeah.
He would not be walking around with the stupid KB. Well, KB, those are your initials.
Yeah.
Idiot. What
that's
is your
not hard to figure out. So was Kobe Bryant. So I think he might have had that before you.
Yeah, but Kobe had Black Mamba.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. I can't think of some of the other great. Maybe one of the top in sports was the refrigerator. We might be biased because we're Chicago Bears fans, but the refrigerator is a really good one. I think what tops fridge? Either I stumped you to the point that you cannot think, or he's dropped off the feed. That's fine. We're about to wrap it up anyway, but since we were talking about nicknames and organizations making safe calls, Mike Shildt always buying the protection plan at Best Buy on his purchase. You should be safe too, and you should protect your assets. So that's why you should look up the Wiley Group that has 2 locations in Festus and Arnold to serve you. They offer home, auto, boat, motorcycle, business, life insurance, investments, and so much more. They can customize an approach unique to your situation to make sure you, your family, and assets are properly protected. They offer great rates and savings. Give them a call today at 636-764-6294 to do an insurance review. Or you know what? You can talk sports with them. If you don't have time to call, or if they don't have time to return it immediately, you can always email Sean at SeanWiley@allstate.com. I think I've lost my co-host tonight, but that's okay. I think we were at the top of the hour anyway, so it's time for us to exit. When you're not watching us live, you can check us out on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Radio Public. You know what? We're about everywhere, so you can check us out at your favorite podcast app. Just look us up, Team of Rivals Podcast. You can check us out at teamofrivalspodcast.com, on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod, on Facebook, which we're not big fans of these days, but we are present there, so you can search Team of Rivals Podcast. Share that with your favorite fans, Cubs or Cardinals. We have no preference there. We love you both. I don't love half of you. And that's about it. So I'm a little thrown off because Pete usually leads us out. So I'll take it from here, and we'll be back next week, same time, same place. We'll try to keep our Thursday schedule. It's been really hard. Little League has just kicked my ass. I've got 2 boys. One cares, one doesn't. And unfortunately, right now, I moved down to coach the younger one who I haven't coached before. He doesn't care. I can't even get him out of the house in order to get his spikes on. So that's been a particular challenge. So I was going to get into that story. It's going to be funny, I thought, but lost Pete. Don't hear him back. So we'll be back same time, same place next week. You know what? We love you guys so much. We appreciate all of you tuning in tonight, participating in the chat. We try to follow it as best we can, but we're only human. Bye-bye, everyone.